Hey there, I am so glad you're here. In today's video, we're gonna set up an Epson EcoTank printer to convert it to sublimation printing, as well as get our computer set up to have all of the right settings so you can get started on your own sublimation journey. My name is Allison, and here on this channel, I make weekly tutorials and do a weekly live stream bringing you the latest techniques so you can learn to love all of your crafts and really celebrate your skills. So if you like that, make sure you subscribe. This video is the first video in my sublimation series, and I am gonna walk you through how to set up your printer, how to get started, and bring you specific tutorials on different things that you can make using sublimation. This video is sponsored by Wokok Ink, and if you want to check out their sublimation inks on Amazon, you can find their link down below. But they were amazing and got me all set up with their inks and supplies to bring these tutorials to you. So today we're going to start with what is sublimation and how to get started with your printer. In the next video, I will be talking about how to sublimate tumblers, coasters, keychains, mugs, all the things. So make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss those future tutorials. So what is sublimation? Sublimation is really a dye process, okay? You're gonna have something like a mug and an image, and you can transfer that design permanently by dyeing the polymer, whatever, in the item that you're sublimating. So it is permanently dyed with the design of your choice. Now, you need a few things to get started. You need a sublimation printer, you need sublimation ink, you need sublimation paper, you need a way to heat press your items, and I think that's it. I'm gonna walk you through that and help you get started. So the first thing you need is a sublimation printer, and you basically have two choices. You can either one, choose a printer made for sublimation like the Sawgrass printer, or two, you can do an Epson EcoTank printer, which is just a regular printer that anybody can use with their computer, but convert that to be able to use with sublimation. The Sawgrass printer is designed for sublimation, so it's got great quality and you have all of the technical support behind you. So if you go that route, that is a great way to go. I personally went with the EcoTank route. It is a less expensive way to get started. And since I am just starting and really kind of figuring out where this is gonna go, I went with the EcoTank and converted it into sublimation. It is a super easy process, and I'm gonna walk you through that step by step here in a minute. I went with the EcoTank 2760. It prints on 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. It was relatively affordable versus any EcoTank will actually work. The EcoTank is just basically tanks for ink, and you would normally put in the Epson ink to print like office papers, right? But we're gonna fill it with sublimation ink. If you want something that prints in a bigger space, you can look at something like the EcoTank 15,000, which will print 13 by 19, but I know I personally am gonna stick with smaller items like keychains, mugs, ornaments, 20-ounce tumblers, so the 8.5 by 11 is perfect for me. Then you need sublimation ink. Now, I got my ink from Amazon from Wokok Ink. I have that linked down below, as well as sublimation paper, right? You're gonna use the special ink on special paper, and then you're going to need stuff to sublimate on. You can get mugs, tumblers, keychains, ornaments, fabric. As long as it is a high polyester count material, you can sublimate on polyester shirts and all sorts of things. I will link where I got a bunch of supplies down in the description box below. And then lastly, you need a way to heat press your items. Now, I have a heat press that I've had for several years that I will be using for my keychains, fabrics, all of that. I'm just gonna use my regular heat press. And then if you're gonna start doing mugs or tumblers, you can either use a mug press, like specific heat press made for mugs and tumblers, or you can use a convection oven. I'm going with the convection oven because my heat press doesn't have an attachment for a mug press, and I really wasn't ready to buy a mug press. So I went with just a regular old convection oven that you can like cook food with, but obviously this one is separate for crafting purposes. I will have all of this information in a blog post if you want to check through that and just make sure you have everything that you need. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to walk you through how to set up your Epson EcoTank printer and your computer to be ready for sublimation. In my next video, I'm going to take you through step by step how to make a sublimation Tumbler. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that next tutorial. Let's head over to set up the printer right now. So here I have my EcoTank 2760, and again, any of the EcoTanks will work. It comes with some papers, and you can just slide it right out of the box. It is not too heavy because this one is actually one of the smaller ones you can choose. So once you take it right out of the box, grab the charger, and you don't need the ink that it comes with because we're gonna be using Sublimation ink, so you can, I don't know, figure out something to do with those. Unwrap the plastic, and then you're going to spend a few minutes just taking off all of the blue little guys that hold this together while shipping. But you want to make sure that you look on the back and on the sides and on the inside, so you don't have any left before you actually go to print. The front of the printer has a little card that basically says take it out of the box, add your ink, and turn it on. Very, very simple instructions. And then just put it where you want it so you can add the ink. So I am using Wokok Ink Sublimation ink from Amazon. They got me all set up, and I'm super excited to share them with you. But you get black, magenta, yellow, and your cyan, your just typical printer colors. So you lift up the top and it will stay open. Lift up this little flap and pull back all of the blue thingies, whatever they're called, and then you're just going to add in your ink. Now, I put a little piece of parchment paper on the bottom just in case I made a mess, but these specific bottles just go right on top of the ink, whatever, and it takes a minute, but you will see the ink fill up. The tank will fill up, and once it gets to the top, you can remove whatever color you're doing and move on to the next one. These made absolutely no mess, which was super awesome. And you're just going to repeat for each one of the colors. Now, some inks have these syringes, but the idea would be the same. You're just going to put the ink all in this same exact spot until your tank is full. This whole process took just a couple of minutes. When you're done with your ink, you can remove it and grab your power cord because we're going to close this all up and plug in the computer to the wall. And then you're just going to turn it on and go through the menu options as if this was just a regular printer. It's really no different. So you're going to turn it on, choose your preferred language from this menu using whatever the buttons it tells you to press. And then it's going to charge your ink. So it takes like 10 minutes for it to go through that ink process. There is a handout you can go through to make sure you're going through the right steps. But in this process, you're just using the menu to prompt. You're gonna, set your language, set your paper type, set your Wi-Fi connection. And once it kind of goes through all of that, you do want to make sure that you're using premium presentation paper matte. So we're going to print a test page. So that you're going to put in your sublimation paper. I'm using it from Wokok. They sent this to me, but they don't actually sell their paper right now on Amazon. So I will link to a different one below. You want to put in the paper and then choose presentation paper matte. This allows your printer and your ink to just use more ink to give you more vibrant colors. So go through, choose presentation paper matte, and you're going to then say okay to print this test page. You want it to come through with like no gaps in your printing, so you can always clean the nozzle and run it through again until you get a nice clean test print. That's what I did. I ended up going through a second time. And once you get this set up in your printer, we're going to move to the computer and get set up there. The first thing we need to do is download the driver that you need for your printer. So I'm going to Google Epson EcoTank 2760 driver because that is the printer that I have. So if I go to epson.com, you can even go here and go to support and I think printers, right? But I just like to just Google it. And here you will see that my printer comes up. If you are choosing a different EcoTank printer, make sure that you obviously choose the right printer. And then I'm going to download this whole drivers and utility combo package. It should know like what computer you have, if you have a Mac or if you have whatever. So then just press download and let it install. So it will take a minute to install. Confirm that the ink is charged, which is what we did when we first turned on the printer, and it took like 5 to 10 minutes. I am going to select wireless connection and set up the printer for the first time. When I went through the menu items earlier, I already connected the printer to my Wi-Fi from the printer. So this is kind of just confirming all of the things we already went through. So we're gonna, find it on the network, press OK, and it takes a second to actually find the printer. But since I already went through this from the printer, it is a pretty easy process. You're gonna press next, and then we wait. It takes a minute to actually set up on the network, but we let it do its thing. And once it is connected, we can print a test page just to make sure that it works. So to go through the computer settings on my Windows computer, I'm going to press the Windows key and I'm going to type in printers and scanners. And there I'm going to see my Epson EcoTank. You can search through this. If you have a Mac, it's going to be a little bit different. And here I'm going to click Manage. Right, your computer might look a little different or be a little different, but the goal is to get to the printing preferences. And from here, I want to turn on borderless printing. I want to choose premium presentation paper matte and change it to high quality. And then I'm going to go over to more options, and I'm going to make sure that I have this mirror image checked, because you want your print to print mirrored. And then this way you can just send it to your printer and it's going to do that for you. So you don't have to remember to do that. So if you click mirror image, you're always going to want that. So just do it right here so it always does it. And then the last thing you're going to do is go to color correction and go to advanced. And you're going to choose Adobe RGB and the gamma at 2.2. And then you're going to press OK. And now every time you go to print, it's going to save those settings so you don't have to change it every single time. So if you wanted to print a image, right, to put on some sublimation item that you have, you can use Microsoft Word, you can print from Silhouette Studio, Google Docs, Photoshop, Illustrator, wherever, it doesn't matter. But if I wanted to insert a picture to put on, let's say, a coaster, I am going to add this image and then size it the way that I want it. So the car coasters that I have, this about 2.75, if you double click on it, you can change it over here. This is just specifically Microsoft Word, but the general idea for something else would be the same. Now, I also would change the margins to be 0. And then since we turned on borderless printing, we can get our image very close to the edge. The other thing I would do is probably fill up as much of this paper as I can before I actually printed it. But if I went to File, Print, I can choose my EcoTank. And if I went to printer properties, all of the properties that we just set would be there. So then when you print your image, it will be mirrored and all of the colors will look very good. Once you get your computer set, then you need to just practice and test. I recommend getting smaller items like keychains and ornaments and smaller things that you can practice on, or maybe even cheap polyester fabric, just to make sure that your colors work well. You do have to kind of play around and learn the temperature settings. Wherever you get your substrates from, they will have guidelines as to how to use them, but click the video on your screen if you want a step-by-step tutorial on how to make a sublimation tumbler.